Hi guys, it is me, Chester HD, and welcome to this post-2018 Hungarian Grand Prix Q&A, where basically for 30 minutes straight, I am going to be answering your questions. And to the people in the chat, and to anyone watching this once this has gone up as a recorded video, how are you all doing? How are we all doing after yesterday's race? Has our view changed about the race? I kind of think the race was better than I originally thought it was when watching it back. So, yeah, I think the Hungarian Grand Prix wasn't too bad. It definitely wasn't as bad as I think some people out there were claiming. So, yeah, I think yesterday's race was decent. Before we properly get into the Q&A, though, I just need to mention a few things. One, if you have not seen today's race review of the Hungarian Grand Prix that has gone up today about 3 hours ago, go into the description and click on the link there to go to that video, to watch that video. As well, if you want to join the Chaz HDF1 Discord server and join our brilliant community, a link to that is also in the description. If you want to follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with my channel, again, a link to that is in the description. Don't forget to subscribe either on the bottom right of the screen, click on my channel name, or click on the link in the channel as well. Like this video, comment down below as well. If you did not catch this live and you have a question, put it in the comments anyway, because I will probably, within, 24 hours, say, get around to answering it. So even if you don't watch this live, that doesn't mean you can't ask a question. So if you're watching this back, then put one down and I'll try and answer it the best I can. But let's get this Q&A underway. How do you think Verstappen and Hamilton relationship would be like if they were teammates? By Simon Cragland. I think it would combust a lot quicker than people think it would. I think them two together would be hellish in terms of aggressiveness, because I think Lewis would be kind of disturbed by Max's pace in qualifying, which, by the way, I think is very underrated. I think Max is right up there with Lewis as one of the best, if not the best, qualifier on the grid. I think Max is that good in qualifying, and I think if Max out-qualified him in a couple of races, then that would really upset the apple cart. And then if Max, threw it down the inside for a race win, then, yeah, I think it would really upset the apple cart at that team, whatever that team is, and that relationship. And I think eventually it would combust, because I think those two, in terms of their personality, they just can't coexist. There is absolutely no way they can coexist. By Alejandro Barbosa, do you think Ferrari can come back in the second half of the championship? Of course they can. They definitely can. I don't think they will end up winning the championship, but there's no reason why they can't close it to even a 1-point gap, even if Lewis Hamilton still wins the title. I still think Ferrari, at Spa and Monza, they will come back and definitely close the gap. I think they'll be better at Monza than they will at Spa. I think Spa is definitely more likely to be a win for Mercedes. I still think Ferrari will have the fastest car there, but I think Mercedes are going to be bringing an upgrade for Spa, and I think that might make the difference there. But I think Ferrari should close the gap. There's no doubt about it. If they don't close the gap, then it's kind of an embarrassing end to the season, considering that they have such a fast car right now. It's clear to see. I think they had the fastest car this weekend, but they couldn't show it at all. Hi to Arrow Boy, who has just entered the chat. From Simon Cragland again, I think F1 fans in general are very harsh in terms of calling races boring. In comparison to football fans, do you agree or do you not understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I think basically for a race not to be boring, it has to have, like, crazy amount of overtakes and crashes, and we all know what the, say, casual F1 fan wants for it not to be boring. again, it needs to be almost like Silverstone every race for it not to be considered boring. So, yeah, I kind of get your drift. He also asks, Ferrari will also have an upgrade at Spa. They should do. They should do, but I think Mercedes have more to gain from whatever upgrades they bring, because Ferrari, since Silverstone, have definitely outdeveloped Mercedes. There's no doubt about it, but I think Mercedes will strike back, because remember back to the Austrian Grand Prix when Mercedes brought an upgrade and then were clearly the fastest car there, despite, of course, retiring with both cars. So, both teams are going to bring their upgrades. I think Mercedes will bring an upgrade which will be better than Ferrari, and that will, strike back against Ferrari. Then Ferrari will bring theirs, and it'll just back and forth until the end of the season in Abu Dhabi. Gamer Ben, do you prefer Lewis or Seb? I don't really prefer one of them. I don't really prefer one of them, I'd have to say. I think I prefer Lewis as a driver, and I prefer Sebastian as a person. If you combined those two characteristics, I think I would like that driver, but they both have their faults, there's no doubt about it. From Simon Crackland again, which midfield driver would you like to see at a top team? Sergio Perez. I'd love to see Perez at preferably Ferrari, because I think he deserved to go there in 2013, I think it was. I think he deserved to go there. I think he earned his way there, but they didn't select him. They kept Felipe Massa. And what happened at McLaren. Yeah, just the way it goes, unfortunately. But I think Perez definitely deserves a chance, and I think it would be interesting to see how he would do against a Vettel or a Hamilton, because I think he would surprise a couple people as to what he can do. From Alejandro Barbosa, what do you think about Renault and Red Bull situation? Also, because Verstappen Team Radio, their relationship is completely dead. Of course, they're breaking up at the end of 2018, so there's nothing to be resolved. They're basically heading for their inevitable divorce after Abu Dhabi, and they're just, on the road there. There's nothing really new about this. Red Bull don't like Renault because they think Renault are doing a poor job, which I have to say in the last few races they have in terms of their power units. And I think Renault are angry with Red Bull about the criticism that they've given sometimes a bit too harshly, which I do agree with at times has been a bit too harsh from Red Bull. And I think Renault are also angry about how Red Bull put the Renault power unit in the back of the Red Bull car. Because I don't think Red Bull are exactly trying to, trying to get the best out of the Renault power unit with the way they package the rear end. I don't think Red Bull really give a damn. Should they give a damn? That's up to them. Simon Cragland, I am a Dane, but I get a feeling that many Brits don't like Hamilton. There's plenty of Brits that don't like Hamilton, but then there's plenty that do. It's a love-hate relationship with Hamilton. I mean, of course, at Silverstone he gets great support, but you're only seeing a fraction of British people that have feelings, good or bad, about Lewis Hamilton. You're not seeing the full picture. So, yeah, I think in this country, definitely a love-hate relationship with the guy, and I don't think he is really at all the most popular British driver of all time. I think Nigel Mansell takes that by a mile. But, yeah. Will Force India be here in 2019 in your opinion? It's hard to answer because they have potential buyers, apparently 4 or 5, but no one actually knows if they are going to get bought. It's still up in the air and there's still a lot of hoops to jump through for that to happen. So, I don't know. I honestly don't know. anything could happen. Anything could happen at this point. No one expected them to go into administration the way they did on Friday night. So, again, anything can happen on that front. Mario Master, if Force India had the budget of McLaren, could they have been a top team? I think Force India would have won at least 2 races between 2014 and now if they had the budget of McLaren. No doubt for me. I think they would have won Baku in 2017. I think they would have won Baku that year. And I know they cost themselves of winning that anyway with, you know, the budget they have. But I think if they had a budget of McLaren, they would have been right at the front, right at the sharp end, and wouldn't have had to, you know, been racing so hard in terms of teammates there. I think as well another one they could have won, or probably would have won. I'm trying to think what it is now. Maybe Monaco 2016. I think Perez had a podium. I definitely think 2 wins would have come for Force India if they had the budget of McLaren. Do you want rain in Spa or dry? I want rain because rain always makes F1 more exciting, and at Spa, there's no track like it. In the wet, that track is one of the best on the calendar, especially Eau Rouge in the wet is such a good corner. Just don't even get me started. It is a great corner in the wet conditions, and hopefully we do get some kind of rain at Spa. Do you think Daniel Ricciardo, this is from Frederick, do you think Daniel Ricciardo would ever leave F1? If you're talking about for another series, no. But of course, eventually F1 has to leave F1. Nikki asks, don't know if you already answered this, but what are your expectations for Red Bull Honda? I've not answered that, and I don't really know what my expectations are right now. I think it's too early to say. I think Red Bull, I think the only expectation I have is that Red Bull will definitely have the 3rd quickest car. I think that's the only expectation I have. I don't expect a race win. I don't expect podiums. Just being the 3rd fastest car. That's all I really expect from Red Bull and Honda for next year. But if Honda make massive gains, then who knows? They might be just as good as this year or better. Who will finish 7th in the Drivers' Championship by the end of the season? It's currently Nico Hulkenberg from Kevin Magnussen, and I'm going to go for K-Mag because the car he is driving right now is way quicker than the Renault. Way quicker. And I think at Spa and Monza, as I said in my race review, Haas are going to fly. They're going to absolutely fly. And I don't see how Renault, Toro Rosso, you know, teams like that, how they're going to compete. I don't see how they can. Just looking through the chat, Simon Cragland again. Actually, I think Mercedes on paper only will have the fastest car at Suzuka and Austin, but it is pretty difficult to say. What do you think? I think those 2 tracks, they might just edge it, but again, it depends on the development race between now and Abu Dhabi, because if Mercedes bring, say, 2 or 3 upgrades which blow Ferrari out of the water, then it's back to Mercedes in terms of them being the fastest car. But if Ferrari continue the way they're going, then they'll have the fastest car. It's just, it's hard to really decide who is clearly the fastest this season because, it keeps swinging back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Soccer Legend, do you think the pecking order will change with the new regs in 2019? Not really. I think it'll still be Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, front 3. I wouldn't be surprised if Renault got a podium next year because I think it's clear to see since 2016 they make massive progress over the winter. They are the best team at developing over a winter, I think, on the entire grid. 2016 to 2017, they went from near the back to not front of the midfield, but definitely knocking on that door. And, you know, over the winter 2017 to 2018, they've gone from, say, middle of the pack to front of the midfield with Haas. So for 2019, with the resources and the money they have, if they can improve the power unit a bit, not massively, they should, if they finish 4th in the Constructors, which is a doubt at the moment, they should pull away from Haas, Force India, McLaren, and cement that 4th place for 2019. And then maybe by 2020 they can close up to whoever's 3rd. But again, we'll have to see. I don't think the 2019 regs are clearly going to suit anyone as of right now. Game of Ben, how Hamilton will win championship from Vettel, then Raikkonen probably. Yeah, that's what I see. Nicky, of the midfield drivers, who is the best and who is the worst in your opinion? I think the best midfield driver in terms of the midfield teams, I would say, well, you'd have to say Fernando Alonso, but he's not a midfield driver, so we'll exclude him. Charles Leclerc, Ocon, Sainz, Hülkenberg. It's difficult to say. It really is. It's really difficult to say. I can't answer that. That's a very good question. I don't know who would be the best of the midfield. It's a good question there by Nicky. Alejandro asks, which team do you want to be competitive in 2019 from the midfield? McLaren. And I know that might sound a bit mad considering I've absolutely tore them a new one this season. But I understand, and I think people at F1 and Liberty Media understand, that McLaren have to be back at the front or near the front or closer to the front. They have to be. And I would love to see McLaren, even if they were 4th next year, and kind of like Renault this year, where they're not clearly 4th fastest or clearly 4th in the Constructors, but they end up finishing there. If McLaren did that, I'd be happy. I really would, because it would be a good sign that McLaren are actually making progress, but they're not. They're not at the moment. Hopefully they get it right for next year. Reza asks, if George Russell won the F2 Championship this year, do you think he will be moved up to Formula 1 next year? I think he will. I think if Lawrence Stroll does buy Force India and Lance goes to Force India, I think the lineup next year at Williams will be Sergei Sorokin and George Russell. I don't see any different, I'm afraid. Kubica, I don't think Williams are actually seriously considering him for a drive. And George Russell has been fantastic this year, even though at the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend in F2 he wasn't because of reliability issues mostly. He's been brilliant this year, and I think he would deserve a seat in F1. Maybe Lando Norris does as well. We'll see who comes out on top in the F2 Championship. Who is your favourite midfield driver from Arrow Boy? I'd have to say Perez. I really do like Perez. I think when he's on form, he is a very good driver, and I think people really do underestimate him and underrate him. Mario Master, is Ricciardo underperforming after Monaco, in your opinion? Well, let's go through it. So Canada, I thought Canada, he drove well because his power unit was more damaged than his teammate, and he wasn't that far off Verstappen, who finished in P3. So I think he did well there. France, he was unlucky because he picked up some kind of damage to his front wing and was going to finish in 3rd. So I think he was unlucky there. Austria, he didn't drive well. I don't think he had any pace that weekend. Silverstone, again, no pace. Did drive well in the race, but again, no pace. Hockenheim took the penalty, got through the field, but then had the problem, so we can't really detect whether he was good or bad. And Hungary, I thought he drove well. I don't think he was brilliant or fantastic. I saw that he won Driver of the Day, which I disagree with, because I think the cars he was passing, let's be honest, he was always going to pass. And I don't get this obsession with, if you overtake the most amount of cars. Even if you're miles faster, you automatically get driver of the day. I don't understand that fascination. My driver of the day, and by the way, you can put it in the chat or the comments if you want, my driver of the day was Fernando Alonso, because I thought to do what he did on the overcut, on those really important laps, was fantastic in a McLaren car that is not quick enough to be in that position. I did not think Daniel Ricciardo was driver of the day. Just reading the chat. Who from the 20 drivers on the grid is your favourite? I swear if you say Alonso, I will end my life. He used to be my favourite driver. He's still in my top 5 or 6 favourites, but my favourite driver is Max Verstappen. And a close second right now is Charles Leclerc, despite in the last couple of races, he hasn't been that great. So, yeah, hopefully Charles picks it up. He needs to. Are you good at the F1 game? F1 2017, I am good. I'm not great, but I am, I'd say, good. And hopefully for F1 2018... I'll be good on that game as well. Soccer Legend asks, can Haas beat Red Bull at Monza? I don't think they will, realistically. I just think the Red Bull, in terms of aero, in every single corner, has so much more grip than the Haas. And yes, Monza is about the straights, but you also have, you know, the 2 chicanes. You have Lesmo 1, Lesmo 2. You have the Ascari chicane. There are still corners where you've got to get it right. And I think the Red Bull will still have enough over the Haas in that respect, because I think the Red Bull chassis compared to the Haas, well, there's no comparison. It's way, way better. So I still think Red Bull beat Haas that weekend, but I wouldn't be surprised if Haas did what they did in Austria and split the 2 Red Bulls. That wouldn't be a surprise. Mario Master, do you agree with Christian Horner when he says Red Bull would have won the same races they won this year with Honda? That's difficult to answer. I think Monaco, yes, they would have. China? Yeah, probably. Say 70%, yeah, they probably would have, because I think the soft tyres compared to the mediums that Mercedes and Ferrari were on, I think they would have had just about enough to sneak a win at the very end. Austria, difficult to say. Difficult to say about Austria. Again, I think in Austria he might have finished, Max Verstappen might have finished in P2, because I think Kimi might have caught him faster if he had a Honda power unit. But I think 2 race wins is you know, the max I can see, no pun intended. Alejandro asks, your favourite F1 car of all time? The Ferrari F2004. That's no doubt about that. That car is just an amazing looking car, sounding car. It is perfect. It is absolute perfection in terms of a Formula 1 car. Funnily enough, our top 2 favourite drivers are the same, just reversed. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not surprised that that Charles Leclerc is becoming the favourite for so many people, because he's been so good this season and he's such a nice guy. So it's not really a surprise that he is, that, you know, he's doing that, or that, sorry, he's becoming a favourite of so many people. You should record or live stream you playing the F1 game with us or yourself. I'm planning on possibly doing F1 2018 content. It's mainly going to be league racing, because I am involved in a racing league which will be getting underway at the end of September, I believe. I need to confirm that with the guy who runs it, but if I, you know, play the game and test it out, and I see how the game is in terms of the online and stuff like that, I may do kind of a league racing series alongside all the other F1 content. But it's not confirmed yet. It's not confirmed. So we'll see what happens on that front. Alejandro asks, do you think Pirelli should put softer tyres to have more than one stop, or to have more good races or strategies? If I was Pirelli, I'd just bring the softest tyres available. Hyper, Ultra and Super Soft. Just bring them all. I don't care about the degradation of the track. Don't care. Do not care. More stops equals better racing. Fact. Just trying to read. Who is better? This is from Formula 1 Master. Who is better, Kimi or Bottas? Right now, Bottas, but over... Let's compare it, say, Bottas's first 5 years, because he's been in F1 5 years now, to Kimi's first 5 years. Well, there's no comparison. Kimi was way better in his first 5 years, in my opinion, compared to Valtteri. I think Kimi, 5 years into his F1 career, should have had 2 world titles, and I don't think Valtteri's really, maybe except for this year, has earned the right to be in an F1 title battle, even though, of course, at Williams he wasn't in a car that was capable of that. But, yeah, in terms of 5 years into both of their careers, because we can't compare their entire careers, because obviously Valtteri is still young. Right now, Bottas is better, but Kimi, definitely, career so far, is better. Do you think Leclerc will stay at Sauber because of Sergio Marchionne's tragic death from soccer legend? That is a possibility. That's a very sad possibility for Leclerc. I have thought of that. But I think if he has already made that decision, then surely, if you're going to pay tribute to the man, you should follow through with that and not disrespect him in death. So if he has made that decision, or if he did, make that decision before he passed, then they should respect it and not go back on that. But who knows if he made the decision yet? I'm not sure he did. I think Ferrari are a type of team that don't make decisions until Spa Monza time in terms of actual drivers. My favourite is my fellow Swede Marcus Ericsson from Arvid. Understandable. Nikki asks, do you think if Lotus had stayed after 2015 that Renault would not have had a works team? If Lotus was able to pay its bills, then I think Lotus would have survived, but not for very long. I still think Renault would eventually have took over that team, because Lotus just weren't bringing in the sponsors, the cash. They just weren't bringing that in. Someone asks, who do you think will win the championship? I will be doing a video on that during the summer break, so subscribe to the channel and, yeah, wait until that video comes out during the summer break. Alejandro, I think if they put the super hard since the start of the race, they will no stop on pits, haha. If they wanted to, you know, promote the drivers just pushing as hard as possible and forgetting about tyre wear, then yeah, bring the hardest tyres available. But the drivers want the softer compound, so in qualifying they can break records. So just bring the softer compound. I don't understand why we're not, you know, why we're not doing that. But right, I'm going to answer about 3 more questions, and then I will end this Q&A. It's been great so far, so thank you guys for coming along and asking some questions. It's been great. Mario Master, do you believe Grosjean will stay for 2019? I do. I think he will stay at Haas. I don't see their driver lineup changing. I don't see it. There has been rumours of Sergio Perez, but it looks as though, because Force India are struggling for cash, it's going to be Perez and possibly Stroll for 2019. Nikki, Senna, Schumacher and Fangio, who, in your opinion, is the best driver of all time? Right now, before, say, Hamilton or Vettel wins their 5th world title, this may be controversial, and I actually did on my old channel a series on this, my top 10 of all time. Niki Lauda. that is my greatest driver after those three. The reason being is because at his best in the 70s, I think he was definitely the best driver in that decade. I think when he was at his best, he was unstoppable. He was even more unstoppable when he was partnered with Ferrari. And what really makes his career great to me is that how he came back after that horrible accident at the Nürburgring in 1976. Nobody thought he would be alive, never mind racing again. Not only did he come back, he came back and raced, I think, from Monza, and then he did a couple races after that, and then it was the end of the season. He raced to the end, only lost out by a point to James Hunt, I believe, and then won the title the next year in 1977, and then went on in 1984 to beat Alain Prost by, I think, half a point. So, yeah, I think, considering those circumstances, I would have to put him right now as the fourth greatest Formula 1 driver of all time. But I will say this, and this might be controversial. If Lewis Hamilton wins the world title this year, then the best driver of all time, excluding Senna, Schumacher and Fangio, will be Lewis Hamilton, in my opinion. So, yeah, deal with that how you may. Right, I'm going to answer now my final question of this Q&A. Some very good questions in the chat. So again, thank you guys for putting some questions in the chat. Just looking through now for my final question. Keep typing if you have a good one, because I might come across it and then we can answer it. Right. Right, I've got my question from Alejandro Barbosa. This is the final question. If Porsche comes to F1, which team will they supply their engines? If the Red Bull-Honda relationship doesn't work, it will be Red Bull, because I think there is not a relationship there, but there is a very small connection, I think, between Red Bull and Porsche, and I don't doubt that they've had discussions before. So I think if Porsche came into F1 and weren't a works team, they would supply Red Bull if the Red Bull and Honda relationship went awry. But hopefully it doesn't. But again, hopefully Porsche actually comes into F1, because if no new manufacturers are coming in 2021, then what is the point in changing the rules? But anyway, guys, that has been it for this Q&A tonight. Again, thank you guys for coming along and asking your questions. It has been good fun. And just to let you guys know before I go, of my summer break schedule, again, if you have missed it, for example, this week there is 2 videos coming for the rest of this week. And I know that sounds a little, but trust me, don't worry. I have, videos coming throughout the summer break, so don't worry. Everything is going to plan. Thursday, I will be doing a mid-season review for Mercedes and Ferrari. Saturday night, I will be going live again for the Fantasy League results, I think week 6 or 7 of my Fantasy League results. So again, if you have not joined the Fantasy League, then go onto the website and either sign up or, join. Create your team, save it, and then enter 29A13E. That is 29A13E for the code you need to enter to get into my league. Yeah, I'm going to do that on Saturday night, and then next week I'll be doing a mid-season review for Red Bull, McLaren, Renault, Force India, Haas, Sauber, Williams, Toro Rosso. That'll be all next week. And then the week after is the full week before Spa, where I will be doing an F1 2019 driver lineup prediction video. So if you're interested in driver moves, then wait around and stick to the channel and subscribe for that video coming very soon, in about 2 weeks' time. And then I will be doing a news roundup of all the summer break news so far, basically, by the middle of August. The first episode of the Chazza HDF1 podcast will be coming out during that middle week as well. I have already contacted my first guest and he is a regular in the chat sometimes. So yeah, I'm interested to get this thing going. And then the week of Spa, I'm doing a video about who I think will win the championship. I will settle that once and for all going into the rest of the season. And then, of course, a preview for the Belgian Grand Prix. And one more thing, I might be doing a video about a certain event that I'm hoping to be going to during August. So, yeah, that might be coming on the channel, say, at the beginning of the week of Spa. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. But again, thank you guys for coming along for this Q&A. Again, if you have not checked out my latest video, the race review for the Hungarian Grand Prix, a link to that is in the description. If you want to join the Chazza HDF1 Discord server, a link to that is in the description as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the channel, again, go to the description, a link is there. Don't forget to subscribe, either go to the bottom right and click there, click on my channel name, and you can go to my channel page, or again, go to the description and a link to my channel page is right there. Like this video, comment down below if you have any questions that you wanted to ask but you couldn't because you weren't here when we were doing this live, then go ahead and ask and I will get round to answering that as soon as possible. But thank you guys for coming along and I will see all of you again on Thursday.